And we're off. Welcome, everyone. It's week 2 upon us for the Miami Dolphins. And to talk everything Miami Dolphins versus New England Patriots at Hard Rock Stadium and the magic that the players only meeting is going to produce for the Dolphins. Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel is already chuckling at that suggestion. Perk, how are you, buddy?
I am good, man. I am good. I sure hope they win this week. This was not fun last week, so hopefully we can put some fun back in our jobs, Coop.
Yeah, that was rough. Before we get started and dive into the matchup between the Dolphins and the Patriots, who also come into the game with a 0-1 record, this is where I remind you, fine folks, to please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, comment, and all the shamagaloo. Read Chris Perkins' content, and again, I did it again. Content at sunsentinel.com. Check out my written content and that of my team at miamidolphinson.si.com, where all the content is free. Check out, Perk, what's your schedule next week for the Dolphins deep dive with Perk, considering it's a truncated schedule?
Wow, big words. You must be college educated or something.
I hurt myself there.
I think we're going to do it on Monday, but I've got to see the Dolphins Monday schedule.
There you go. Yep. So you'll be notified if you follow and subscribe to Perk's the Dolphin Deep Dive with Perk, as you should. So, as we mentioned, we are certainly hoping for a better performance from the Dolphins. It's not a very high bar, so it shouldn't be difficult for the Dolphins to increase it. Let's start with the old players only meeting.
Yep.
What's your take on all of that? Too soon, as I like to say. Too soon. Too soon. Makes no difference. What's your take on the whole thing?
I don't think it's too soon. I think it's a well-timed meeting. I think that with all the outside chirping, they need to make sure that everybody is still, moving in the same direction. But, it's funny that thing caught so much fire on ESPN and national news, because I wrote about this in November, that this team has team meetings, and by November, when I wrote about it last year, they were 2-6, and they told me they had already had a few team meetings. And so, halfway through the season, you've had a few. That's a team that just tends to meet a lot. They told me that the meetings are usually called by the leadership council, not by team captains, and the leadership council is kind of a mix of players of different ages, offense, defense, special teams. And so it's different than team captains. They say that the meetings take place there at the facility in a conference room or meeting room. Obviously, it's got to be somewhere big enough to hold 69 players, 53 players on the active roster and 16 on the practice squad. And they just kind of, talk about what's going on with the team. What Alec Ingold and Kendall Lamb and Teron Armstead and Zach Sealer told me last year was that they thought that the meetings were productive because the players had some intention there, meaning they wanted to get better. It wasn't just airing of grievances. It was, how can we get better? And so, obviously at the time that I wrote about it, it led to a 6-3 finish. Well, they finished 6-3. They were 2-6 at the time, but remember, they had already had a few meetings before that. So I'm not going to say the meeting I wrote about led them to finish 6-3. It was just one in a series of meetings. I usually don't think that the player only meetings lead to anything big. I've covered them in baseball and basketball and in football, or mentioned them, written about them, been aware of them. I do think that it helped with the Dolphins last year, because this is a team that was going in a lot of different directions. And, you did have some players demoted for the first time, and among Raheem Mostert and David Long and Durham Smythe. We'll see what happens going forward with the Dolphins after this meeting. But I think it's a productive, healthy thing, but I don't think it necessarily leads to, hey, we're going to go on a 3-game win streak now.
Yeah, my first thought when you said the meeting maybe was about how can we get better, and my first thought was like, damn, that must have been a long meeting. We'll be here all week. Remember, tip your waitresses. Here's the other thing too, is based on the explanation, and the whole thing started with Tua basically when he was asked about, and this is after the game, he had talked about, I sure hope like some guys come in to, watch film on Tuesday and all that. And then he was asked a follow-up question during his weekly media session on Wednesday. And then that kind of evolved from there. But here's the thing. If a whole bunch of players show up to watch film on Tuesday, which is not uncommon, I mean, this is going above and beyond to do your job. And then somebody at some point starts talking about the game, that it essentially constitutes a meeting. And if the coaches are not there, then it constitutes a players only meeting, which to me doesn't have the same connotation as, guys, we need to discuss what the hell's going on here. And so, and even Mike McDaniel on Friday said that the whole idea of the players only meeting was kind of a little bit blown out of proportion. So I'm thinking, is it possible that, I mean, it was, technically under the terms, it was a players only meeting, but it wasn't necessarily somebody called it outside of their realm of normal activities and said, guys, we got to talk about what's going on, because generally a players only meeting is like a last resort. And for it to happen after week one is highly unusual, or would be highly unusual no matter how putrid the Dolphins looked against the Colts.
Yeah, and I didn't go out there today, so I didn't talk.
You mean Friday? You mean Friday? By the way,
yes,
Friday. Full disclosure: we are taping this on Friday, very, very late afternoon. So we'll forgive us if we use a long time reference. Go ahead, Perk.
Yes, thank you, Poop. That's very unprofessional of me. But yeah, no, I blew the secret. But I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that if this, like you say, that's a very good point, because I don't know if this was, maybe there happened to be 40 players in there watching film, and then they decided to speak, or was this all 69? The 53 plus the 16, and they were in a big conference room. Nobody really made that clear. Shame on us as media members, but. You bring up a very good point. I think your version, as far as I know, is closer to the truth than the full 69-man roster being in a big conference room. But maybe we'll flesh that out after the game tomorrow. Look at what I did there.
Very nice. Well done. No, thanks for
That's right.
And here's the thing, and I'm going to put it out there right now. I don't want to hear any stories. I don't want to see any stories written about, look at the Dolphins got what they wanted out of the players only meeting, or if they lose, they create even more dissension and all that. Ultimately, it's going to have very little impact on whether the Dolphins defeat the Patriots, which they have done in Miami, or overall actually for the past 4 meetings. And they have won in Miami against the Patriots the last 5 times they've met. The last time they lost was, I'm going to bring it up, but it was actually week 2 of a season, but it was 2019, which is different circumstances. And Dolphins got waxed 43-0 that day. I mean, and it was ugly. Yes. It made what the Dolphins did against the Colts last week like a masterpiece almost. Before we move on to the game itself, I can't help, and full disclosure, I also was not out there. I've been a bit under the weather, which is why there was no podcast on Thursday. Feel a little bit better now, not great, but still a little bit better. And today I was limited participation. How's that? I was at DMT the other day. So our buddy Omar asked Tyreek about his lack of plays over 30 yards, lots of receptions over 30 yards since the 2024 opener against Jacksonville. And as Omar's asking his question, Tyreek's got his head down, shaking a little bit, laughing, and then told him, "You're trying to get me in trouble." And that was like, holy moly, was that a lot of words without necessarily saying anything. Did I read too much into it, or
no, that's accurate. That's accurate. And good for Tyreek for not expounding too much on that, because I'm sure he's got a lot to say. Mm-hmm. The funny thing is, I saw Tyreek in the locker room on Thursday, and I gave him my stat of, since 2023, the Dolphins are 11-0 and average 35 points per game when he gets 100 or more yards, 7-17 and average 18 points per game when he has 99 or fewer. And he laughed and he goes, "And I get better with time." which meaning, I'll be better at 32 than I am at 31, kind of, keep me around a little bit. Then I told him I included that in a column that was headlined "Dolphins trade Tyreek, you must be freaking crazy." And he kind of looked at me with just kind of this blank look, just kind of like, trade? What are you talking about? So,
what everybody's talking about, Tyreek.
Exactly. I think he liked one of the things I told him and wasn't sure about the other thing.
Yeah.
But good for Tyreek for not going on a little rant about I need more practice time with Tua or anything along those lines. It's not often that Tyreek takes the high road on something like this. He tends to expound and say what's on his mind. He bit his tongue this time. That's good for the team, and we'll see if it has any effect on the rest of the season.
Yeah, and like 4 for 40 against the Colts, that's not going to get it done for this offense. The offense is going to be bad, regardless of 3 turnovers, regardless of 5 for 14 on the ground in the first half. Tyreek finishes a game with 4 for 40. I'm going to tell you, more than likely, the offense didn't have a great day. And against the Patriots, and I watched their entire game against the Raiders. We had a podcast with Ben Volen of the Boston Globe earlier this week, which I hope you checked out. If you haven't, do so. Ben, as always, was very good. And this is not the same old New England defense. They have 2 new safeties. They did away with Jabril Peppers and Kyle Duggar. They still have Kyle Duggar, but he's not starting anymore. They released Jabril Peppers. They're starting a rookie, Craig Woodson, and Jalen Hawkins, who's a former 6th-round pick. And they got torched by Geno Smith last week, 362 yards. And Christian Gonzalez is going to miss yet another game with a hamstring injury that's now going on 7 weeks. So, again, the Dolphins are not going to get a lot of mileage out of their passing game. Hopefully also down the field on Sunday against the Patriots. When the hell is it going to happen?
I agree. Like this is the time to get that done. I know that the Patriots recorded 4 sacks last week. Harold Landry, the linebacker, had 2.5, and the Dolphins are vulnerable due to the offensive line situation, especially the right side. No excuses. Get that ball downfield. I'm still a little skeptical of the Tua to Tyreek connection because it hasn't had a whole lot of time together. I know this is their 4th season, but it's been since December, since before Sunday, since they have been in a competitive situation. These things do take time. Again, that's not an excuse. That's a reality. I think it's going to take them 2 or 3 weeks to get back into sync. But they've got to force it. Like they've got to hit on at least one big play to kind of get a spark out there and make the defense respect that combination. What's going to be in the minds of the New England defenders: panic mode. Get Tua off his first read, put some pressure on him, and see what happens. The Dolphins absolutely must find a way to work around that, and really they've got to find a way to get that Tua to Tyreek connection going.
Yeah, and if the Dolphins had to do max protect to help out Keon Smith and Larry Borom on the right side, so be it. Harold Landry III is a very good pass rusher, even though, as Ben pointed out, his sacks against the Raiders were mostly cleanup sacks where a lot of the pressure was coming up the middle from Milton Williams, one of the Patriots' key free agent acquisitions, along with Carlton Davis. I think he's the 3rd also. South Florida kid, I don't remember exactly where, but played at Auburn and then with the Buccaneers, who's actually a quality cornerback. Alex Austin is the other one, the one replacing Christian Gonzalez. But it's not necessarily a great Patriots defense. They did do a good job against Ashton Genty on the ground, the rookie sensation from Boise State. But again, Geno Smith, who's a solid quarterback, let's say at best, 362 yards. And then for the key for the Dolphins, and partly because I hate to put everything on the offensive line. So many fans do it already to an obnoxious degree. But yeah, Keon Smith and Larry Borom have to hold up to a certain degree.
Right.
Okay, I think some Dolphin fans want Tua to have 7 seconds every time he drops back. That's not the NFL. No quarterback has that. That is not reality. But I haven't seen one metric yet all week that suggested that Tua's pass protection was anything below good in comparison to other quarterbacks in the NFL. So if the pass protection is anywhere near as good as it was against the Colts, then it'll be on Tua and the receivers to get things happening in the passing game.
And I would like to see a run game. Get Ollie Gordon involved early. I have no problem with Achane. I like Achane. 1,499 yards from scrimmage last year, 78 receptions. The dude is a baller. I think he rushed for 929 or something like that. He's an absolute baller. But get that physical run game, that physical presence. I know Ollie Gordon is just a rookie playing in his second game, but you got to do something. You've got to establish something different with this offense. And I'll tell you what, Poop, once again, I think a lot of this game is on the front seven. They've got to come through. They've got to put some pressure on Drake May. Drake May absorbed 4 sacks last week, so you can get to him. The front seven has got to lead the way. The cornerbacks are a work in progress. We saw last week where at safety, Ife Melifonwu appeared to not know that he had some responsibility on that Michael Pittman touchdown. Storm Duck looked back at Ife after that touchdown. And so the safety play, whoever's playing beside Minka has some growth to do. Minka is the one guy you can rely on back in that secondary. So front seven, which is laden with veterans, they've got to lead the way. That's what I'm looking at as the key to this game. Maybe Riley Patterson, the kicker, plays a factor. I'm expecting a low-scoring game, but it's to me, most of the responsibility is on that front seven.
And this is where I'm going to point out that I specifically asked defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver about that Michael Pittman touchdown and who had the responsibility where. And he pointed out that, basically, in his own words, Storm Duck did everything perfect on that play.
Yep.
And it was Melifonwu's responsibility to come over. And then Weaver, even beyond that, said he actually did it too well because he kind of rerouted Pittman, knocked him off course, basically. And by that time, Melifonwu decided, well, I don't need to help out over there. And he stayed in the middle against Tyler Warren, who was being trailed by a linebacker. I can't remember if it was, I don't recall if it was Brooks or Tyrell Dotson. Not quite sure. The Dolphin linebacker was trailing him. I've said this before. If Melifonwu had gone over to take care of Pittman as the defense dictated, I'm not sure that then the read for Daniel Jones isn't over the top to Tyler Warren, and maybe it's a touchdown anyway. But regardless, on the particular play in the scheme, this was Melifonwu's responsibility. I know there was some debate early on about that. And to go back to the Dolphin pass rush, no, without question. Oh, and the running game, I want to say, is part of the reason, two things. Number one, part of the reason the Dolphins couldn't establish a running game is they got behind so quickly. I mean, in the second quarter, it went awry pretty fast. I mean, we got the 17-0 because it was 10-0 after the first play of the first quarter, turnover on the next drive on the second or third play of the drive, 17-0, and then it's like, oh boy, and now you're chasing the game, as they say. And the other point I want to make is there was somebody on social media put out there the heavy usage of Achane, who played 84% of the snaps on offense, which on the one hand is man, that's ridiculous. It's way too much for a back his size. And then it's whoa, okay, but the Dolphins had so few snaps offensively that his number of snaps wasn't necessarily that high. So, and that was a big part. The number of snaps for both teams was heavily skewed toward the Colts because, again, they were able to run the ball and Dolphins never stopped them. Defensively, yeah, they absolutely have to have more from the pass rush. Big question mark for the Patriots. Right tackle Morgan Moses, a veteran, is questionable for the game with a foot injury. If he doesn't start, the Mike Vrabel indicated on Friday that it would be rookie 7th-round pick Marcus Bryant from Missouri. Logically tells you this is a guy the Dolphins should be able to take advantage of as much, if not more, than the Patriots should be able to take advantage of Larry Borom and Keon Smith. And then after that, if they start, and he may even mention 2 names, if they start with Marcus Bryant and it doesn't work out, they'll go with the veteran Vidarian Lowe and my recollection of Darian Lowe from last season, the season before that, not very effective. And Dolphins, of course, the Patriots, of course, on the left side have two rookies starting on their offensive line. Will Campbell is a starting left tackle who, by all accounts, was solid most of the game, had a couple of hiccups in the fourth quarter. And then rookie Jared Wilson is the starting left guard. Jared Wilson, who, by the way, kind of led to the Patriots releasing Cole Strange in training camp. Cole Strange, of course, now being a Dolphins player.
And, I'll mention something else about this game. It's a 1:00 Sunday game in September, the heat and humidity. Here's one reason I love talking to Jordan Brooks. So I asked a couple of players, including Bradley Chubb, about the advantage of the heat and humidity. And Chubb said, yeah, it's an advantage for us, that we went through it. Now we're going to make them go through it. And I reminded Chubb of the time that, and I don't think he was here when Bill Belichick brought the Patriots down on Tuesday. What year was that? Was that 2022? 2020? I think it was. But I think it was, because I think that was the same year that they had the fire in the parking lot that engulfed a few cars. But anyway, he brought them down on Tuesday. They practiced at Palm Beach Atlantic. It didn't matter. The Dolphins ended up winning. Yeah, that was the opener, Mike McDaniel's debut against Belichick. That's right. So Chubb said, yes, it could be a factor. I asked Jordan Brooks. He said, no, we that's not a factor. He said, you can't rely on the weather. He said, it's all a mindset. That's why I like Jordan Brooks. He was the one after the Green Bay game who said, we played soft. He's the one who said Tyreek doesn't owe this team an apology. Everything is good. And now he's the one who says the weather is not a factor. It's on us. It's our mindset. Jordan Brooks always, whether you agree or not, he's the guy who speaks his mind. It's one reason I always go to Jordan Brooks. But I do think that it can be a factor. We saw what it did to Buffalo in that 21-19 game back in 2022. The Dolphins don't have many heat and humidity games the way that the schedule works this season.
Correct.
That will be a factor, or the Dolphins have to hope it's a factor. It can't be, it can't take the place of a poor run game by the Dolphins or, the front seven not protecting. It's kind of like the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. It's a bonus, but hopefully for the Dolphins, they're able to use that in their favor, that somebody somewhere, whether it's Will Campbell or whoever, gets a little worn down by the humidity, isn't effective for one or two key plays in the game, and the Dolphins are able to take advantage.
If you've ever played sports at any level in South Florida at this time of year, and you'll understand just how much the sun beats you down. And when you're in the shade, even if it's still hot and humid, not having the sun beat down on you for 3 hours, it's a huge difference. Yep. And it's probably not a coincidence because I'm trying to remember if it was the Bills themselves. The Bills themselves, publicly made comments about it, how bad it was in that 2022 game. And if you look at last year, the Dolphins' September home games, it was Thursday night against Buffalo, and it was Monday night against Tennessee.
Yep.
And if you look at this year, what's their second home game in September? It's a Monday night game.
Yep.
If you don't think that's the NFL adjusting it to not give opponents those games in Miami at 1:00, I think it's something to do with it. Let's try to do some quick matches. We talk offense, defense, and vice versa. Special teams, there's a name to remember, Brendan Schooler, who blocked, I want to make sure I have the order right, blocked a field goal against the Dolphins in 2023, blocked a punt against the Dolphins in 2024. Needless to say, the Dolphins have to be doing a lot of this. For those listening on the audio podcast, I'm doing the double finger motion with the eyeballs, I'm going to be watching you. Dolphins have to make sure that they don't let that happen, and we're going to get pretty close to our pick prediction or feeling on this game. I still don't like the vibe I'm getting with this Dolphin team. I really don't. First of all, right now they're dealing with injuries. 4 guys already have been ruled out: Storm Duck, Austin Jackson, Benito Jones, and shocker Darren Waller. Ethan Bonner, Jalen Wright, both practice on a limited basis Friday. They're listed as doubtful. I wouldn't count on either one of them. But outside of that, the personnel is much better on the Dolphins side. This is a game logically the Dolphins should win handily. Right now, my mindset is the Dolphins are not, until proven otherwise. Again, I didn't like the vibes of the offseason heading into the regular season. We saw what happened against the Colts. Until proven otherwise, I'm shaky about this team right now. I still think they have too much talent to not win this game, but they cannot afford to give the Patriots breaks, such as a block punt or a block field goal.
Yep, and look, Poop. The Dolphins after one game, -3 in turnover margin. More significantly, in the Mike McDaniel era, they are -13 in the takeaway giveaway margin. So you've got to clean up your act. You've got to play good football. You don't have much margin for error. And yeah, special teams wise, we saw Matthew Judon run into the punter. And again, that allows the Colts to extend a 17-play drive, which results in a field goal at the buzzer at the first half. They take a 20-0 lead, game over. So you've got to be clean in every way because you don't have the personnel that can really cover for mistakes. I still like the Dolphins' frontline players, the starters. I know that there is a big dent in that, especially on the right side of the line. But I agree with you, Poop. I think they should have enough. By the way, that's one of the favorite things that I've heard Eric Spoelstra ever say back when I covered the team. When you expose, well, he's out. We have enough. And what that does to me is it just sends a message, and it helps the fans set a mindset, the media set a mindset, the team set a mindset. Screw these injuries. Get out there and execute. I wish I would hear Mike McDaniel say that, but I would like to think the Dolphins have enough.
He has said it. Adversity is opportunity.
That's not the same. Just say we have enough. No excuses. We have enough to win. I picked in the Sun Sentinel, I picked Dolphins 24-20. I'm going to modify that and say Dolphins 17-10 because I don't think they can score 3 touchdowns. But I'm still picking a Dolphin. I'm serious, but I'm still picking a Dolphins win. So that's what I'm picking there.
Okay, and you forgot the ever popular next man up.
Yes, yeah, right. Thank you.
The variation of it that I just love is here we have a next man up mentality. I mean,
right.
Here in every city in the NFL.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I haven't. Oh, and actually, you know what? Yeah, see, now I forgot the time frame on this since my comprehensive preview has been posted Saturday morning. I can reveal now because it's on their website. I have the Dolphins winning 23-20. Say I have 2 touchdowns, also three field goals, and based on talent, the fact the game's in Miami. Remember last year the Dolphins beat them 34-15 here in my, or 34-19 here in my 30, one of those two here in Miami. The Dolphins are much better, and especially on the Patriots offense. I'm looking at. I think Drake May is going to become a really, really good quarterback. He had a bad game against the Raiders last Sunday. Travion Henderson was a sensation in training camp. Didn't do a whole lot against the Raiders. I look at that receiving core, and it's like Kayshon Boutte was their best receiver. Right. Stephon Diggs, who's getting up there in age and coming off a torn ACL. Mac Hollins, former Dolphins. Hunter Henry, who's a solid tight end, but nothing special. There's just not a whole lot that really scares you. Dolphins are going to play a lot better, logic tells you, than they did against the Colts in week 1. But then Patriots logically will play better than they played against the Raiders in week 1 as well, under Mike Vrabel as they start to try to establish their program, because it was pretty uninspiring debut for them as well. So that's what I got. Dolphins in a close one, and if they don't win this game, yikes. Then we got prom, and then we have a whole new episode for the podcast. That's going to be something.
Yeah. I'll add that I believe the Dolphins are 18-7 at home under Mike McDaniel. Vrabel does seem to have the secret sauce. We remember the last time they played was that Tennessee game late in 2023 where they won 28-27. The Dolphins offense couldn't mount anything late in that game, but I still feel fairly good about the Dolphins because they do play so well at home.
And should mention the one before that, the time before that Mike Vrabel faced the Dolphins, it was 34-3. That was the rainy game in Tennessee at the end of the 2021 season. So anyway, it's a new season. He's on a new team. Hopefully these are new Dolphins from the one we saw in week 1, because it's got to be better. And if it's not, again, it's going to be nasty. So that's going to wrap it up. He is Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Check out his fine work at sunsentinel.com. Stay on the alert for when the next Dolphins deep dive with Perk will take place. Please like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Check out the written content here at MiamiDolphins.si.com. We will have the obligatory live post-game All Dolphins breakdown Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. So until then, have a great rest of your day.